Tonight on the Hornby Magazine show, I use a hammer.
I get sticky with some glue.
And we bring you the latest models from Bachmann and Helgen as well.
So hello and welcome to this month's Hornby Magazine show. Tonight we've got progress on Topley Dale, we improved the quarry scene, we also catch up with Bachmann's winter announcements.
Plus we've also got some exciting new samples from Helgen to show you for O-Gauge as well in this multi-scale Hornby Magazine show.
Hello and welcome to this month's Hornby Magazine show. We've got loads in store for you tonight, and that coincides with the latest magazine.
That's right, yeah, our December 2020 issue is on sale now. It's issue 162, and it comes with our free 2021 calendar as well.
Which month are you?
Fortunately for everyone, I'm not any of those months. It's a selection of the best layouts from Hornby Magazine over the past 12 months, covering steam, diesel and electric traction, and that's free with every issue of the magazine. Plus we've also got an exclusive competition to win a Bachmann Johnson 1P 044 tank for double O gauge. And obviously things at the moment have changed a little bit with the new lockdown. I've got to mention that for this little bit. But if you can't get to the shops to buy our magazine, which is out as usual wherever stockists are available to sell it over the counter, you can also order online from shop.keypublishing.com for delivery direct to your door.
And I will throw a link down in the description. Right, so I think it's time we get on with this video.
Yes.
And it's time to, well, get on with the quarry.
Yeah, well, follow me, I'll go and show you what we're going to do.
Tony's Trains of Rugby is located at Hillmorton Locks on the outskirts of Rugby. We are open Tuesday to Saturday 10 till 5 but closing early on Saturday at 4 o'clock. We stock Hornby Bachmann, Graham Farish, Pico, Gauge Master, Helgen, Oxford and Oxford Diecast, Acura Scale and more. We also have a large selection of second-hand models to suit all budgets. You can either visit us in store or reach me on 01788 543 442, visit our website tonystrainsofrugby.com or find us on Facebook.
Hello and welcome back to Topley and a scene that's probably quite familiar to you from the last couple of videos here on the Hornby Magazine YouTube channel. Now, as you'll realise, we've been working on this quarry scene, building it all up and getting it all towards completion, and my aim today is to bring that to a fully finished scenic area across behind me here. So to start moving things on for the scenery, I've taken a scrap piece of 6mm MDF and I've cut it with a jigsaw to give me a nice rolling line for the front of the baseboard here, and that'll allow us to make an embankment drop down from the railway level down to here, give it a little bit of shape here and some nice photographic angles as well, back and forth to the main line there and into the quarry this way as well. So that's my first starting point. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away all the trees, all the buildings. I'm going to cut away all the spare cork and pin down the rest of the track here to make sure it's in its final position. And then I'm going to glue down the roadway in the background there as well, ready to start making the scenic landscape from there as well. And that'll start making this ready for those final important ground cover layers. So my first step is just going to be to tape over the joins in the woodwork here. We don't need baseboard joints on this layout because it's a static layout. If ever I do move out of this location where it is, it's going to be a case of dismantling it anyway. So I'm going to just tape over the joints, which will mean that when we come to put scenic materials on, it doesn't fall down between the cracks. So just using very simply some masking tape to cover those up. Also got a little bit of trimming to do with this as well to make it fit around the track there. Come back to that in a moment. And just making sure that when we come to do things like ballasting, that all the ballast isn't going to fall down those gaps between the boards there. So we don't want to lose a lot of materials. Like I said many times before, this doesn't have to be a perfect layer because it's going to be underneath all the rest of the scenic layers that go on top of this. It's just about making sure that we don't have gaps. So next up I'm going to finish the track work for the quarry sidings with the little cutout in the background there. I've got a little space just to extend one of the sidings, and it also needs pinning down as well. Then once I've done that, we can cut away all the cork. So the first thing I'm going to do is trim both the rails to the same length in this corner. Just like that. I'm just going to add a couple more inches of track onto the end of that. So just going to add a pair of standard Code 75 rail joints onto the ends of the rails, ready for them to join onto the section of track we want to add it to. It's just going to allow us to extend this siding. Simply just slide the things together. Use a pair of pliers just to move the rail joint into position. Okay, one extended siding. So now all we need to do with this is just put a couple of pins in to hold it in place. Then we can cut away the spare cork and this siding will be finished. So now the track's pinned in, I'm going to use a Stanley blade to cut away the excess cork between the lines, and then we can get back to scenic modelling. Right, so that's the last bit of the cork cut away there. We'll be able to reuse some of that as well later on in the project. So the roadway is currently not fixed down at all up this end. It's fixed down a bit further on, but this part's all currently loose at the moment. It's going to continue to be supported by these spare blocks of polystyrene, because at the end of the day, the weight of the items we're going to put in on here, it's not exactly going to put any strain on that area at all. So to fix that down, I'm going to use this War World Scenic basing glue. I've just got a few spots of that underneath the road there on top of these blocks to hold them all into position. And what we're trying to do here is get this to a point where the road is in place. We'll have the landscaping done in front of the road, but the actual road surface won't be done yet. because we're going to come back and do that a bit later on when we add in the fallow car system onto this as well. So now I'm going to add the glue onto those pieces to join it all together. Okay, so to make it a bit easier, I'm just going to lift this piece up and chuck it with that roller masking tape. Now that means I can glue these blocks together here then. So a bit of glue on the bottom. Put that in place. A bit of glue on the bottom of this one as well. Put that into place. Same on top of there. And then gonna lift that up again. Never going to win Britain's Strongest Man with them, am I? And that would just mean that roadway stays in place whilst we move on to the next stage. Okay, so because the track's so close to the road down there, what I'm trying to do here is just create a means of stopping any scenic padding from falling out the other side into the railway. It is a very narrow space between the railway and the back of this road, which I'm going to have to do some creative thinking about how I actually finish this area off as well at some point. I've got a couple of ideas now. Right, so I'm just going to put a line of glue on the upper and lower surfaces of this panel we just cut. So be quite careful putting this in now because I don't want to get any glue on the track. I just want it to go in the right place without any fuss or drama. There we go. Okay. So now we've got our basic landform in there. We can stop everything falling out of the back. So I can pack all that area now with these bits of redundant packing material. So one of the things I've got to remember along here is that when all the buildings go back in place, they're going to be quite close to this roadway here as well. So one of the things I'll do is it'll be quite a vertical landform here. But once we get to the finishing point of the scenery, I'll disguise all that with bushes and things to make it look like it's, well, obviously a steep embankment up to the road, but that it looks like it's supposed to be there. Okay, so I'm just going to tape all that landscape into place now. Again, the other advantage I've got with masking tape here as well is I want a really smooth surface up onto the road. So I don't want any lumps or bumps of plaster of Paris lumping over onto this roadway because it's going to need to be nice and smooth when we come to put the fallow vehicle system up there as well. Make sure that all this landform goes in place nicely. Remembering to push it back far enough that I can get my engine shed back in. Now, one of the things I'm just going to quickly check before I go too much further is that the building still fits, because it'd be a bit of a disaster if after all this work my stone quarry doesn't fit anymore. As you can see, pretty spot on there as to where we want to be. Okay, so I've pretty much finished the initial phase of landscaping for that section from the roadway dropping down, and I'm going to create the fill-in for this piece here. Now I decided that I'm not going to add point motors onto this section of the layout for a couple of reasons. One, it's quite difficult to put them into this area between this board and this board. well, it's a permanent home layout anyway, so there's not really any need for me to have point motors here. It's just as easy to flick the points back and forth by hand. And 3, it's going to cost me less, which is always a good thing. So very simply, I'm just going to put a piece of packing into here like this, just to overlay all that. Use a little bit of structure for the landscape as it goes over the top. Then same method again, so I'm going to use the masking tape just to lap over the top of this, and that'll give us a nice dropped down scenic area in front of the railway there.
So as you've seen, Mike has nicely prepared the scene for the next stage of messy modelling. Now, that is particularly my favourite bit, so this is where I take over for a second and, well, take us through the next step. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take paper. So I've got some loads of offcuts of paper, some just ripped up, and we're going to coat it in lovely PVA glue. Now, I've got a nice tub here full of it, and it's literally a mix of PVA glue and water, so a nice wet mix. And all we're going to do, paint over the masking tape and then layer this on and quite literally paint it in, as you'll see me do. So, right, let's crack on, and hopefully we'll be left, once it's dry, with a nice hard shell to start putting some scenery on. So, let's go. That was very quick and easy to do. It only took me a couple of minutes, and well, it makes a very good foundation to your scenery once it goes solid. Couple of points: as the glue soaks in, the paper will get softer, so if there's any angles or anything, or any bits of paper popping up, you can go over them after a couple of minutes with the brush and just flatten them all back down, and then well, you just wait for it to dry. So while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to move on and continue with the front. And there we go. I think you'll agree that's come together all rather nicely, and hopefully in future Mike will let me loose on Topley a bit more. Yes, I got a bit of glue on his weights, and there may be a bit of glue down here on the O-gauge test track underneath, but what he doesn't know won't hurt him. So while this is drying, I'm just going to go and have a play with the trains before Mike comes back for the next stage on the improvements to Topley. So, we're making good progress on the scene. There'll be more of that later in this episode.
And I just realised where that glue came from as well, the gauge.
Yes. Anyway, it's time for something very special now with the Bachmann winter announcements.
I'm Chris Tippin and the shop is called TTCDIECAST. The shop's 107 Nottingham Road in Derby. We sell the ranges of Pico, Metcalfe, Hornby, Bachmann, Farish, Dapol, Helgen, basically all the main manufacturers for double O and N. We do North Chord, EFE, Britbus, all that sort of stuff, and we do new and second hand. Website is the main point of contact, ttcdiecast.com. Shop phone when the shop is open on 01332 343 943.
So, 4 times a year, Bachmann now announce new products. And, well, luckily enough, a few days ago, it's the winter announcements from Bachmann. So, I've got a lovely list in front of me, and we're going to go through some of the new additions.
Yeah, that's right. So, the good old collection of new announcements, both for Double O and Engage, and across the Bachmann branch line, Graham Farish, EFE Rail, and Bachmann Scenecraft ranges as well. So, plenty of new products on the way.
So earlier this week I caught up with Richard Proudman, the communications manager at Bachmann, and he gave me the lowdown on what's to come. So it's time for us to take a closer look. So starting with the Collectors Club, what have we got, Mike?
Right, so we've got a couple of new items for the Collector Club members, and these are exclusive limited editions which are only available to Bachmann Collector Club members. Probably the highlight of these is Bachmann's doing a Pride of Britain train pack which contains 66731 Sir Captain Tom Moore in its NHS Thank You GB rail freight livery, and it's also got a model of the Hurricane and Spitfire that did the flypast for his 100th birthday as well. So that's a really nice pack. The Hurricane and Spitfire, they're both in 1/72nd scale, and the Class 66 is in double O gauge, but they're also doing a pack with an N gauge Class 66 model in the same livery as well.
And it's a very smart presentation box and
it is, yeah,
package all around.
Really smart that. And also for the double O gauge side, they're doing both DCC ready and DCC sound fitted versions as well. Like we say, they're limited editions, and Bachmann's aiming to raise 60,000 for the NHS charities from the sales of those models.
Yep, there's going to be some scrabbling around to get one of them.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, it's an exciting release and probably a really strong reason to become a Bachmann Collector Club member as well, actually. And then second to that, there's another exciting release actually. It follows on from a bit of a theme that the Bachmann Collector Club's had for its limited edition models. They're doing a Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway liveried Johnson 1P044 tank, and that's number 54 in the rather smart Prussian blue livery of the SDJR. Same specification as the new version that are just on their way, which I think they're now due out in December, I believe. And yeah, another great addition to the Collector Club lineup there. Right, so Bachmann branch line next, and there's some exciting new double O gauge releases coming too. A highlight for me and anyone else who's interested in the southern region is going to be the second batch of Brighton Atlantics, and they're doing both versions of the H1 and the H2 this time as well. Richard nodding sagely there, he's thinking, oh no, another Southern Steam engine. That's, I'm sitting there thinking, another Southern Steam engine.
You and Mark have too many Southern Steam engines.
This is not a possibility. Anyway, getting back to the point. So they're doing the H1 in Southern Railway Malachite Green, which is really quite a bright, impressive livery. They're doing the H2 in BR Black, again, a different numbered version to the previous one. And they're also doing the H2 in LBS CR lined umber as well. So 3 nice locomotives to choose from. And each of those will be available both DCC ready and DCC sound fitted as well.
Next, of course, they're doing something a bit more modern with some Class 57s.
Yeah, that's right. We've got 2 new Class 57s planned. We've got 57009 DRS Compass livery, and we've got 57313 in West Coast Railways Maroon. And both those, again, like the Atlantics, they will be available both DCC ready and DCC sound fitted as well. Moving on, the Class 1173 car DMUs, which came out in early this year, which were featured in issue 158, they're making a return as well with the same 3 liveries, but this time with factory sound fitted to them as well. So that'll give you a new choice and new opportunity to buy those really rather nice units. Sticking with the DMU theme, we've also got a new Class 108 being added to the range, and that's a power trailer unit in BR green with speed whiskers. So a nice addition for those modelling the Steam era where they want an early DMU to run alongside those final years of Steam.
Classic model, I think I'll be tempting myself to that.
Absolutely, and that also joins, I believe they've already got a blue and grey one planned as well, so there will be 2 of those Class 108s, and they're both with the small destination blinds above the centre window as opposed to ones with the headcoat boxes. Next in the lineup is an addition to the range planned for the 94XX 060 pannier tanks. Those are the Great Western ones. They're now going to be available both DCC ready as planned before and also DCC sound fitted as well. So with the same running numbers, you'll have the choice from the shops to be able to buy them with or without sound.
And they sound great. I've been having a plate/test of them on Topley Dell, and they are just very nice little models, really.
That's right, so it's a Next 18 decoder socket in there again, firebox flicker, and also a 15 by 11mm sugar cube speaker as well. And as Richard said, they don't just run well, they look superb, don't they? So. And we'll have a full review coming up on the 94XX in a future issue of Hornby Magazine as well, so keep watching for more on that.
But of course, it's not only locomotives they've got, they do have some rolling stock coming.
Yeah, we've got 2 new items of rolling stock being released. We've got a SR 25-ton pillbox brake van in Southern Railway brown with the vermilion ends, and there's also going to be a new GUV van in Intercity with Motorrail branding as well. And I got a little bit excited about this one with my Bogey nerd head on. It's because it's got Commonwealth bogies with it as well, and I really like Commonwealth bogies, so it's almost a reason for me to buy that one, even though I don't really need an Intercity Motorrail GUV van.
You and your bogies.
Yes. Right, so that brings us up to the end of the 00 gauge Bachmann branch line section. So next we can move on to Graham Farish. So there's one main announcement that covers 6 new items for N-Gauge this time. So the new Class 31s that Bachmann is doing, so they've got a rerun of the original version of the Class 31 they released a few years ago, and they're also doing a new batch with new tooling to model the refurbished locomotives as well. All that's been announced previously, but what they have announced this time is that all 6 of those versions now are going to come with a choice of DCC ready or with factory sound. They're all now going to have Next 18 decoder sockets, as well as directional lighting, and that'll be a slight upgrade for the chassis from what was originally provided in the first batch, because the first batch came with a 6-bit decoder socket.
And I have to say, a sound-fitted N-Gauge locomotive is always a treat, because you don't have to do it yourself, you just get it out of the box and play with it.
Yeah. It is making a big difference, is that? I mean, it's like even like the latest Graham Farish 8F, it's so much more simple to convert to DCC sound, because all you've got to do now is pop the tender body off, plug a Next 18 decoder into it of the right size, with a sound file on it, of course, and the speaker's already there. It's literally, I reckon you could sound fit one of those Graham Farish 8Fs in about 2.5 minutes. It's, if that. It'd take you longer to take the decoder out of the packet.
We'll have to do that as a test.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Right, so we've done Graham Farish, but that's not all, because Bachmann now have EFE rail.
Yes, they've got the new brand, which was launched with their autumn announcements, and lots of exciting new things here as well. So the FE Rail range is a combination of brand new products and also products that you might have seen before as well. So first on this, we've got a quartet of Class 58s, which are from the Helgen tooling. We've got one in faded rail freight red stripe livery. We've got a coal sector one, mainline freight one, and also a EWS maroon and gold version as well. So 4 really nice locos to choose from there. 8-pin decoder sockets, DCC ready, and I believe due into the shops very soon. So not long to wait for those. Also from the Helgen portfolio, there's a set of 4 cargo wagon box vans as well. There's one in Taunton side livery, there's a Blue Circle cement one, there's an unbranded cargo wagon blue and silver version, and there's also a Danzas branded one as well, and 2 of those are weathered as well, so you've got some nice new choices there for modern rolling stock as well. Moving forward in double O gauge again, we've got some new additions for the steam side of things as well, and a locomotive that actually is quite close to my heart because I went down to see this loco when it was relaunched in preservation in about 2003 or 4 I think it was, and that's the B2l Tank. I went all the way down to Bodmin in Cornwall for a day with 30587 at the Bodmin and Wenford Railway, as it brand new into service, and rode with the loco all day taking photographs for my previous job. So, a little bit of history there for me. Anyway, B2l Tanks, there's 3 new versions coming, so these are using the tooling created for Kernow Model Rail Centre. So you've got a choice of 30586 with its distinctive square splasher in BR black, and then there's 2 versions of 3298, one of it in Southern Railway black, and one of it in Southern Railway green, as is currently preserved as well. And I believe they're due into stock very soon. Also coming for steam fans, and particularly Southern Region fans as well, is a pair of Kernow Model Rail Centre gate stock sets. So that's modelling those coaches in BR Crimson and also SR Maunsell Olive Green as well. So 2 new additions there. Moving down a scale into N gauge, and again, some exciting new things to see for the scale, and actually brand new products this time as well, which have never been available in the market before. So first, they're doing a set of 4 Shark ballast plows. I've always been a fan of Sharks. I have more than I should in double O gauge. I did build a couple of the N-Gauge Society kits many years ago as well. Anyway, I've digressed once more. 4 versions coming, one in BR black, one in BR bauxite, one in olive green, and one in Dutch grey and yellow. Like I say, brand new tooling, NEM pockets on the outside with couplings fitted, and looks like some really nice detail as well, so looking forward to seeing those. And also then the actual brand new thing, which we'll never have heard about before apart from in this announcement, is they're doing a JIA China Clay Bogey hopper as well, and that's going to be available. There's actually 12 versions of that in this first batch, all with different running numbers. They're doing 4 in pristine blue, they're doing 4 lightly weathered, and 4 with heavy weathering as well.
So you can make quite a nice rake out of those.
You certainly could. I mean, I think actually the combination of the lightly and heavily weathered vehicles together in a train could look really quite smart.
I just think they've put the double O gauge ones on the hot wash.
Shrunk them down, yeah.
So, plenty coming from EFE Rail, but that's not all. Let's move on to Scenecraft.
Yes, we've got quite a nice collection of new buildings coming, both for N gauge and double O gauge. Highlights, we're going to do highlights rather than the whole list because there's quite a lot to lots to look through. So highlights in N gauge include a return of the coaling tower, which you may have admired on Barronthorpe Shed. It's a really nice model of one of those classic concrete coaling towers. They're also doing a low relief gasometer. There's a low relief underground station. There's a yard crane and a couple of other buildings too. So in double O gauge, there's lots of new items to look forward to as well, with the announcement of 2 new collections of buildings. We've got Luxton and Wigmore. So Luxton is mainly a railway themed collection, so we've got a new locomotive shed, there's a goods shed, a cattle dock, and there's also a couple of other buildings as well for town scenes around that as well. While in the Wigmore collection is more kind of agricultural theme, so there's a new barn there, there's a watermill and the watermill gate as well that goes with it. Plus there's also a new provender store too. Another exciting release actually, when I saw this, it's like, oh, that's rather nice. They're doing a model of Wroxham signal box as well for double O gauge, and that looks really smart actually.
It's nice, yeah.
There's a few other line side accessories as well coming, including some concrete cable troughing and things like that, and also some low retaining walls like some concrete sleeper walls and things like that. And you can see the full list on keymodelworld.com in our news story.
The one thing I like most about all the Scenecraft range is they're all hand painted, so they're all slightly variant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I mean, again, we were talking about this the other day. Actually, they are all genuinely hand painted. There's no mechanisation in making a Scenecraft building look like it does at the end of the day. So, really quite impressive attention to detail.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of Bachmann's winter announcements, and there's lots to look forward to there. Plus, there's all the items that are now scheduled for release during the next quarter as well, so items that were already listed in the catalogue. Highlights amongst those include the arrival of the 94XX 060 pannier tanks, the previously announced Johnson 1Ps as well. They're pretty much on their way on the ship, and lots more besides. Class 66 is coming too.
Yep.
Lots of different deliveries.
And I think the best thing about these quarterly announcements is everything is scheduled to be released or arrive in the shops within 3 months of the announcement. So very exciting, and you can start to get excited about it.
Yeah, that's right. So keep an eye on your local retailers for those new models arriving, and we'll keep you up to date as well through Hornby Magazine.
Yeah. Right, I think it's time to get on with the rest of the model railway news.
Yes, move on to the news.
Let's go.
I'm James here at DCC Train Automation. So we sell all digital control systems. So anything Zemo, ESU, DigiKeys, Marklin, Fleischmann, Roco, literally any digital system, we can supply it. Anything from decoder installation, sound loading, bespoke design and builder layouts, any construction method, laser cutting services, absolutely everything to suit anybody's needs. We also probably one of the largest offices of the Falla car system with digital control. Shop address is Unit 16, Bowdens Farm, Hambridge, Somerset.
So it's been a big month for O-Gauge this month, with lots of new announcements from a number of different manufacturers. Leading the way was Helgen with announcement of 3 new O-Gauge locomotives. For 2021, it's planning to release a brand new model of the Class 26, as well as for the first time in O-Gauge, the Class 27 as well. And they're going to include some new features, including extra lighting functions and also plug and play DCC. Joining them for a planned for release in 2022 is an all-new model of the Class 73 Electro Diesel for O-Gauge, another exciting addition for the Southern fans in the Hornby Magazine office.
And something I'm looking forward to from Ellis Clark Trains is a brand new CAD drawings of the Black 5 that they're doing in O-Gauge.
Yeah, they've redrawn those from scratch, so brand new artwork from the ground up, and they're making the final checks on those now before moving them off into the tooling phase. And I believe they're hoping to get that out into the shops, well, into their shop, as it's an exclusive commission, in the 4th quarter of 2021.
I can't wait.
That's an exciting project, that one actually, isn't it? So, mention of Ellis Clark Trains as well. They've just released images of the first engineering sample of their press flow wagon for O-Gauge as well, and that is looking really rather smart. Obviously, like all engineering samples, they've already identified things to correct on that, and I know they're working through those items at the moment.
And let's not forget, of course, they're doing their new Wickham Trolley.
Yeah, another exciting addition from Ellis Clark Trains there, and it's both the Wickham Trolley and its trailer as well. Another really quite attractive vehicle there for us. I've got a double O gauge one with sound upstairs.
Don't know how you did that. The hammer.
I've got someone else to do it.
Cheap.
Sometimes it's got to be done. Sticking with O-Gauge and actually moving back to Helgen, we've also got some of the latest engineering samples from them as well, actually decorated samples, which you might have noticed around us. We've got the new Class 17 samples here, as well as a decorated sample of the Class 56 as well. Both of those are looking really quite impressive, and we're looking forward to seeing the actual finished model of those arrive soon. The Class 17 will be the first of those. The Class 56 isn't due out until 2021, but either way, we're all excited to see both of those arrive here.
Oh yes. So, of course, moving over to double O gauge, we'll start with KR Models, I think, with their new GT3.
Yeah, they've received a production decorated sample of GT3, which is looking really rather smart in the pictures I've seen. So we're looking forward to seeing that in the flesh in the Hornby Magazine office soon. Plus, they've also released this month the first engineering sample of the Fell diesel as well, which is, again, quite a nice looking product, actually, moving along quite nicely.
Nice looking, but very odd.
It was a very weird machine. It had 4 diesel engines as originally built in the 1950s, so it was quite an unusual machine, one of the early experimental diesels. So
one's never enough.
that's right. News in from Hornby as well. They've received factory decorated samples of their new 00 gauge model of the BR2MT260. This new 2020 range products can be available in BR lined black with late crests, BR black with early crests, and BR unlined green as well. It's looking really rather smart in that last livery. Plus, they've also identified a small change to the W1. There's a change to the profile at the bottom of the front balance on the locomotive as well, so they're making that change to the rebuilt versions. Well, they've also had the final samples of the gold-plated model of Clanline as well, and they were in their latest engine shed blog and looking really rather fine, that model actually.
Very nice.
Comes in a really nice presentation pack with a plinth as well. I really should order one of those. I bet they're all sold though.
But it leads to the ultimate question, would you run it?
Well, I've actually got a model of Clanline already without gold plating, so I wouldn't need to run that one. So I think that would be a display in the item.
Answers that one.
Then again, you know it'd end up on the layout for a circuit at some point. So.
So moving away from 00 gauge now, we'll go down a gauge to N gauge, and I think we'll go to Revolution Trains for their news.
Yes, so Revolution Trains has been quite busy lately. They've received the first engineering samples of their IWA, hold-all, vans and timber wagons, and they've also confirmed that their Zander wagon has now moved forward to the tooling stage as well. So 2 projects making more progress there with them. We've also had some nice new arrivals with Revolution Trains in the office this month, and quite a few N-gauge items, haven't we? So you'll see more of those in the new arrivals section, covering the Graham Farish 8F as well as Revolution Trains IPA car carriers and its KUA nuclear flask wagons.
So if you want to keep up with the latest news, don't forget to check out keymodelworld.com, where we keep up to date with all the latest news and all the projects as they happen.
As well as in our latest issue every month, we'll always have a digest of all the latest news too, including some new items that you won't have necessarily seen on the internet.
This is Grimy Times Model Railways. I'm Steve Johnson, I'm the proprietor. We've had the shop for just over 5 years now. We sell all the Hornby, Batman, Pico, Gauge Master, Dapple, Sanctuary Scenics, Woodland Scenics, Geo Scenics, Metcalf. Now we have a full comprehensive range. We specialise in, obviously, the weathering services, the Paramount there. It's a complete custom finished service that can be done to however you want them, photographs accepted. Website is www.grimytimes.co.uk.
So I think it's high time we moved on with the show, and I think that glue will be dry, so I think you should go and get on with some scenery.
Yeah, let's go and get that done. So now Rich has finished making a mess, I'm going to come and make it all look nice again. So the next job is to weather all the track, and in order to do that we've got to protect what we don't want to get the paint on as well, because I'm going to be using Humbrol spray paint to do the weathering of the tracks. So I've already been around the layout and I've covered all the concrete sleepered track with wide masking tape, so 50mm wide masking tape, and that means that none of that concrete sleeper track is going to get the grime on it. And then wherever there are point blades, I've added short sections of Tamiya 10mm masking tape over each of those. So what that does, that stops the paint from going in between the switch blades of each of the points, because what I really don't want to do is spend hours afterwards having to clean point out of point blades. So if you are going to weather your track with spray paint, whether it's with an airbrush or with an aerosol, make sure you cover those point blades so you don't cause yourself a lot of headaches afterwards. Because in this process it does require a lot of track cleaning afterwards, so once we've got all the paint on, happily it's acrylic, so it only takes sort of 10-15 minutes to dry. We've then got to go and polish all the railheads to take off the paint where we don't want it as well. But it is a really good, I find, a good catch-all base colour to weather your track as a starting point. So I'm going to shake up my can of paint and I'm going to start repainting all this track. So I said I wasn't going to make a mess, but well, I did really, didn't I? Everything's spray painted brown now, and that means we've got to tidy up again. So there's 2 jobs I've got to do. One, I've got to take all the bits of masking tape off, like we put over the point blades. And then after that, all the railheads now need cleaning as well. Now, you might think that with all the extra scenic processes are going to follow, I could hang on for track cleaning, but I prefer to clean the track in between every process. It means then you've only got to take off one layer of muck before you have to start working on the next one. So we'll clean all the railheads now, then we'll move on to ballasting. Then after we've done the ballasting, we'll clean all the track again. Then we'll weather the track, then we'll clean all the track again. It just means you're always taking only one layer of dirt away each time. So bear with me, I've got to strip all this masking tape off, get the track cleaned, and we'll see some trains running through the weathered track then. So yeah, that's the track clean, and we're going to go and get some trains out and give it a test run now as well. So obviously it's always good to play trains with the layout, so I've got a couple of Class 40s out on the layout running now. One is one of Bachmann's most recent ones with an ESU sound decoder, and another is one of its previous editions as 97407 Oriole, which I've transferred a sound decoder across from another one of my locos. Probably should mention that other locomotive classes are available, I just haven't got any on the layout at the moment. Okay, so I'm now ready to move on to the ballasting process. I'm using my standard ingredients of Woodland Scenics blended grey in both medium and fine grades. So I mix both of them together in a plastic tub here, so I've got a nice mix ready to go. We can start laying that out loose across the railway to start producing that nice ballasted railway look for the layout. So all I do for my ballasting is I go a pinch at a time. So it's quite a slow process, but it means I've got total control over what I'm doing, and we do like to have control over what we're doing. And one of my tricks with ballast is not having too much on at a time. So if you ladle this up with a ballast, you've then got to move it all around to set it into position, whereas if you just put less of it on, you've got less of it to deal with then. So I'll just quickly show you how I do this length of track, and then we'll crack on with the rest of it. So now I've got all the loose ballast on, it all needs brushing into position, so I use either a 1 inch or a 2 inch wide paintbrush, and I always use the side of it because it just gets pretty much the right width for going down the centre of the sleepers. I'm just brushing the ballast along the sleepers so it all falls in between each one. So we get nice, neat looking ballast then, and then the same down the edges as well. Just being very careful just not to knock all the ballast out of place. Just want to take it off the edges of the sleepers. Simple as that. It takes a bit of practice sometimes, but practice makes perfect, as they say. So I'm sure you've all had enough of watching me ballast the layout now, so I'm going to hit the fast forward button and we'll bring it up to speed at the end of the ballasting process once it's all been glued and dried. So the next step in the process to make our Topley quarry come to life is to make the rocks that are going to form the backdrop behind the buildings. For that I'm going to use a tried and tested method which I've used for a lot of the layout before, and that's to use the Woodland Scenics Hydrocal. This is a powdered plaster which comes in these cardboard containers. And all we have to do is mix that with water to the right consistency and then pour it into these moulds in front of me. Let it set for about 40 minutes, then we'll be able to peel the moulds away, take out the rocks, and we'll have castings that are ready to paint. All we need to create the rocks are a few household items. So I've got 2 plastic cups, one which I use to put the hydrocal powder in, another I use to put water in. I've then got an old ice cream tub to mix the powder and water together. I've got a container with some water, just because it's convenient to have that in the workshop, having to run back and forth to the water supply. And then the non-household items are this collection of Woodland Scenic rock moulds. They do a whole variety of different types, and we've got some large pieces here. I've also got another one here which I use to take away the waste bits of hydrocal after I've mixed it, which has got some smaller rocks in it as well. So we can do lots of different castings, lots of different sizes to make lots of different types of rocks for the layout. Okay, so the first step is to decant a cup and a quarter of hydrocal into one of the cups. So fill up 1 cup, tip that in the mixing bowl, then another quarter of a cup, tip that into the mixing bowl as well. Then I need about a quarter of a cup of water to mix with that. Sometimes I get this a little bit low. That's not a problem, just add a bit more water in. It's better to have to add more water in than to take some out. And just tip that water into the tub with the hydrocal powder, and then literally just going to mix it together with this wooden stirrer. So we're looking for all the powder to mix into the water. You don't want any of the powder left behind. It's really important that's all blended into the water. And you want the mixture thick, but not too thick. So if it does start to look really too thick and unpourable, just add another little dash of water to it. Just help it to flow into the rock mould a bit easier then. It just takes a couple of minutes to stir everything in together. Another thing to be aware of with this is, well, you don't get a huge amount of working time with the hydrocal plaster. You need to work fairly quickly to do this. So as you can see, I'm rapidly mixing all this together. All our powder's gone in there now. So we're ready to pour that into the moulds. And literally, it couldn't be easier. You just pour the mould in, or pour the plaster into the mould. Now, do find you get through quite a lot of this casting the large rocks. And actually, I could have done with a larger quantity here. Use this spatula just to move that around in the mould. And one of the things I've found with these rock moulds as well is you don't always have to fill the whole mould to get a useful segment of rock out of them actually. So this one here, I'm going to leave it part filled. It'll give me a slightly thinner rock, but sometimes that can be quite useful. Because one of the things we're going to have to do when it comes to putting these on the layout, it's all going to have to be adjusted to fit the space they're going to go into. So I'm just going to give this a little tip around, move that all the way across the mould without tipping it out. There we go, it's all the way across now, and back the other way, spread it out nice and evenly. So there we go. So that's a set of 4 rock casting moulds all filled up there. I'm going to go and clean up again, clean my mixing bowl out as well, and then I can make another batch if I need to. Okay, so I've left these on the side to fully set and harden, and we're now ready to take them out of their mould. So it's a really simple process, just like everything else doing this. It's just a case of holding the mould, peeling it away gently, and the rock will simply pop out. Occasionally I've found I've snapped 1 or 2 of these as they come out, but again, it's not really a problem, as you can use the broken off bits as well for other features as well. So there we go, that's one of our rocks out. Take this other section out too. So it's 2 rocks out and an empty mould. So we can keep moving on to take all the rest of those out now as well. As you can see, we've got quite a bit of casting flash around the edge of these. Now, really simple way to get rid of this, just break it off. Couldn't be easier. There we go, cleaned up one already. Just going to go through the whole same process with each piece of rock now, make sure it's all nice and clean and ready for the next stage. So any of those excess bits of plaster, make sure they're all gone. So this one you can see is quite a lot. I slightly overfilled this mould I think, but again, really easy. Just crack it off around the edges. There we go. Nice and tidy. In seconds. Right. There we go, it's all our rocks ready. Right, I'm just going to clean up this workbench and then we'll move on to the next stage. So as you can see, the number of rocks we've now got for Topley's quarry have rather multiplied since the previous shot, and that's because we've already been casting a few sets before. So what we've got to do now is give them some colour. So we're going to start with 3 colours. So we've got a yellow ochre colour, which I've mixed with some acrylic yellow. I've got a dirty brown colour, which is from the Wooden Scenics Burnt Umber paint. And I've got a very thin black wash as well, which I've made from using Geoscenic's black concentrate. It really is the tiniest amount of black concentrate in that. It's quite difficult to get it thin enough sometimes for this process. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a sponge to pick up some of that yellow paint. And it's just going to give a few little highlights of colour to the rocks. So we're not looking for an overall application or anything for these, so it's just little daubs of it around the rocks, which could give some underlying colour to those pieces of rock. So I'm not looking for any particular pattern, just blotching it on at random across the rocks. Some are going to get a heavier application, some will get a lighter application. It really doesn't matter too much if it varies from rock to rock, because this is only a base colour anyway, so some of this won't even show through in the end. So you can see I'm just being really quite slapdash about this, but it all works. Again, the nice thing about this is you can put it in little places where you want the colour to run into little corners as well, and it's just going to give that texture and variation of colour over the rock. And the nature of these castings mean that the colour soaks into them quite quickly as well. Okay, so there we go, we've got our yellow colour on there now. So now we've got all that on, we're going to move on to the brown as well. So again, it's a very similar process, heavily diluted brown paint, and I'm just daubing that onto the rocks a little bit more this time, so spreading it around a bit more. So again, this is just it's another base colour to give us a bit of variation in tone to the colour of the rocks. So that's the brown done. Next we're going to move on to the black. I'm going to be, again, quite uncareful about how I'm going to apply this. I don't want it to be a carefully applied paint mix, so I'm just going to use this one as a demonstration piece. So I'm going to dip in the black concentrate. I'm going to try and work from the top down of the rocks. Let the pigment just flow down the rocks where I want it to do. You can see already that's starting to blend those base colours we've put in together. And in some places I don't want it to touch too much of those base colours, so I'm letting it kind of run around them. And other places it can pool, where we get sort of dirt patches and stuff on the rock. You see how as well it's now starting to blend all those browns and yellows we put onto the casting first in with the rest of the rock. So we go, that's one virtually complete rock ready for the layout. Now, we can easily add to this later on once the rock's on the layout, so there's no need to worry about achieving what you might call a perfect finish at this time. That's looking pretty good to me. I'm happy with how that's starting to look now. As you can see, it's a big step up from what it was a moment ago. The danger of these things sometimes is perhaps trying to do too much at once, so I'm going to leave that alone now, and I'm going to rattle through the rest of them, get them all prepared, and then we can move on to the next stage of the project then. So talk amongst yourselves whilst I get all these done. So there we have it. I've got all my rocks painted and they're ready to go over to the layout, so we can start laying them out against that back wall of the quarry scene to start really making it look like a stone wall was there where it's been blasted away to make the buildings. So follow me over to the layout, we'll go and get cracking with that. The quarry's looking a lot more quarry-like now with that nice backdrop of Woodland Scenics Hydrocal rock castings. As you can see, I've spent some time blending them in using more Woodland Scenics products. This time they're fine leaf foliage products in both olive green and light greens. They're two of my favourite colours in terms of that as well, which really work well to blend features like that into the landscape. I've also taken the time to replace the rock castings over the tunnel and either side of it as well. So everything's now got a matching kind of colour tone across this area. I've got a few little bits that still need retouching with some colour on them, but everything's still starting to look the part. Now, as you can see, there's still more jobs to be done here. So we've got all the ground cover to do around this area, which I've not done at this point. And then I've also got the static grassing to do on the bare green areas we did yesterday as well. So I'm going to move on to do the static grassing first, because that takes a bit less time to dry. And then as my final job for this work session, I'm going to add in that ground cover at the back there as well. And then we can move on to all the final pieces of bringing this jigsaw together in the corner here. Okay, so where we left off, I was just doing the static grass around the edges of the layout, and I've filled in the ground behind me, which I mentioned as well. And another thing you might see that's changed is we now have a road bridge set in here as well. Now, it's not totally finished just yet, but it's coming together quite nicely. I've made that using the Wills coarse stone sheets and also the Wills vari girder section for the actual bridge girder there as well. Now, I've got a bit more detailing to do on that before it's what I'd call really finished, but it's starting to make some nice progress now, and I'm at a point where I can start actually putting the ballast in across there as well. But because of drying times and things, I'm actually going to go and do some other bits of scenery first. I'm actually going to do that ballasting last of all for today. So my next step in the process is going to be to put some second layers of static grass into the static grass using a spray method. So I'm going to use a matte spray paint, which is going to allow me to do some quick layers of static grass on top of what I've already got here, build some nice depth and texture in that as well. And then as a final stage, I'm going to add in woodland scenics, fine leaf foliage over the front of the embankment here rising up to the road. And what that's going to do is going to give us quite a nice kind of wooded kind of feel to that embankment there. So like I said before, it's too vertical to have grass growing on it really, and that green I put in there is just a colour fill to give a bit more depth to what we're going to get here. So right, on with the show. Okay, so I'm going to start adding greater depth to the static grass now. I'll do that with a fairly simple process really. I use satin varnish or matte varnish, one or the other, whichever is closest to hand. And what I do is I use a piece of cardboard like this as a mask to make sure that the varnish only goes where I really want it to go. Again, like I said about the original application of static grass, wherever you have glue, static grass will stick. So you have to always bear that in mind with static grass. It's not quite like flock powders and things where you can control where they go exactly. Static grass has a tendency to move around of its own accord as well. So literally just going to spray a bit of this into this area here. And once we've done that, I can take this piece of cardboard away. And now I'm just going to very carefully, using my hand as a shield this time, add a little bit more in around these couple of corners here. You can see there I'm actually spraying more of it at the card than the layout there, just to make sure it doesn't go where I don't want it to be. So that's prepped that. Now I've already preloaded my static grass applicator with a collection of different static grass fibres from the Green Scene range again. I'll clip on my cable to the rail near where I'm adding the grass. Turn the Grassmaster on and shake it over the top of that. And see the static grass fibres are falling straight away into all the glue and adding greater depth to that. Now, a little trick that I learned from Warworld Scenics during our Great Electric Train Show virtual exhibition earlier in October was, once you've got a couple of layers of static grass on it as well, actually digging your hands in and scrunching some of that up gives you some new textures as well. So it makes you create some nice rough grass textures. Now, I really like the effects I've got from this. I've used it on all of our other layouts recently as well. Let's give it a little shuffle. Bit of fine blended green turf in there as well. Mask back in again. Another spray of the varnish. Then another application of static grass on top. Now you can see already how much depth we've already got into that little patch of grass, which was previously looking quite bare, and we can still add more to that as well. So put a little bit more of the fine blended turf in there for a start. I'm also going to use a little bit of Woodland Scenic's coarse turf as well. Every one of these layers I add adds just a little bit more depth to what we've got for the grass. Take some excess weight. Okay, so next we're going to use some of Woodland Scenic's new board fencing. Now they've done a range of different types of new fencing, they've done log type fencing, barbed wire fencing, I think they've done picket fence as well, and these are really nice, ready painted, ready to plant items. So they've got little stalks on the end of each set of fencing pieces, and you just need to punch a little hole in the ground or drill a hole in the ground depending on what type of surface you're working with to plant them onto the layout. So we're going to hopefully fairly quickly add a little fence line along the top edge here from the end of this brick walling that I've done so far, just to give a little finish to the roadway there and create a little barrier between road and railway. Okay, so the last part of the scenery I'm going to do for the time being on this is to add some fine leaf foliage from the Woodland Scenics range across the embankment here, and that will just give kind of that impression of foliage that's grown up over time in front of the roadway and behind the railway. So to hold it all in place, I'm going to use Warworld Scenics basing glue, which is nice and easy to use to add this bushing in place. So literally what I'm going to do to hold it in place is let some glue run down the face of where I want it to be, like that. And then using the Woodland Scenics fine leaf foliage, just going to start adding in chunks to start filling in that scenery. It'll take me a little while, but you'll see the effect come together. And the aim is that all these little bits of landscape which aren't quite perfectly blended in will all get hidden behind stuff like this. So when you actually look at the finished scene, all you'll see is nice, neat looking backdrop to the railway. Okay, so that's completed the scenery for as far as I'm going to go for the time being on this section. There are more things I'm going to do, so there's still weathering of the track to do, weathering of the engine shed quite clearly needs to be done as well, and there's more paintwork to be done on that before I do that weathering. But it's, well, as you can see, well I hope you can see, it's coming together quite nicely now. Right, so next it's time for the new arrivals.
I'm Ellis of Ellis Clark Trains, and this is our shop, Ellis Clark Trains and Clark Railworks. We sell fine scale low gauge, that includes our full range of Darstead coaches and our upcoming press flow wagons. We sell both O gauge, and we use Clark Railworks for selling of our double O, HO, N gauge and all other scales. We sell all brands, we sell Hornby, Bachmann, all continental brands like Fleischmann, Roco, we sell a Cura scale, Dapol, everything. On all our in-stock items, we offer a bespoke weathering and customising service. You can come in person, and of course you can email us as well.
So welcome to the new arrivals section of this Hornby Magazine show, and we've got a nice collection of double O gauge and N gauge items to show you, including a couple of previews to new items which are on their way as well. On the layout in front of me, we've got a collection of 6 double O gauge items, some of which feature in our latest issue, and some of which are going to feature in our forthcoming issues as well. At the front, we've got the new Bachmann Johnson 1P044 tank in BR Black as 58072, which you can read our full review of in the latest issue of Hornby Magazine. Joining it are previews of the new 94XX060 pannier tank, and also its sealed beam class 45, both of which are going to feature in future editions of Hornby Magazine. On the other side, we've got 2 new arrivals from Hornby, covering its Class 47 from the Railroad range. This is one of its Railroad Plus items. That's 47749 City of Truro in GBRF branded BR Blue. Next to that, we've got the 1 magenta liveried Class 66, 66587 as One We Can, which is a really smart looking addition. And that's one of a number of new Class 66s which have been released by Hornby this month. Completing the lineup of new locomotives here, something a little bit different, we've got Murphy Models' new Irish Railways Class 121 Bobo Diesel. And these American-built locomotives, there's a class of 15 which worked on the Irish Railways, and they've been made all new as a model by Murphy Models. You can read all our latest reviews for double O gauge in our latest issue, that's issue 162, which covers the 1P, the Class 47, the Class 66, and also the Irish Rail GM 121. However, it isn't just double O gauge new arrivals this month, we've got quite a few N gauge items as well, including the new Graham Farish Stanier 8F280, which has been tested running on our N gauge layout Baronthorpe, while Revolution Trains also supplied us samples of its new IPA car carriers for N gauge, as well as impressive KUA multi-bogey nuclear flask wagons. So that brings us to the end of the new arrivals for this section, but keep watching and we'll have more in future editions, as well as in the future editions of Hornby Magazine as well.
Smith, and I'm the owner of Smith's Model Railways, based in Sheringham in Norfolk, just on the main high street, really close to the North Norfolk Railway. So we stock from N gauge to O gauge, brands like Pico, Graham Farish, Hornby, Bachmann. Just launched our new loyalty card just after lockdown when we reopened. So we also offer these gift vouchers. You can either contact us via our telephone, email, or with our contact form on our website.
So I think you'll agree it's all looking rather nice.
So I'm pleased with it so far, and like I mentioned earlier, there's still more things that are going to be done to this scene, and there's lots more weathering to do to bring everything together, but it's getting there. It seems to be a bit of a never-ending project, this one.
And don't forget, I helped.
You helped. You did some gluing for us, which was always good.
An integral part.
Yes, you enjoy your messy modelling. So.
So with that brings this month's show to an end. However, you can get this month's magazine, which is on sale now.
That's right, our latest issue is on sale now, and it's available from stores where they're open, including Tesco and Sainsbury, so supermarkets. Plus, if you can't get to the shops, remember you can buy it online for delivery direct to your door from shop.keypublishing.com. A few highlights of things you might want to see in the latest issue. We've got some fabulous layouts for you. We've got Mike Powell's brilliant Coniston Lake, which is based in the Lake District, and you can see it on the cover here. Joining that layout in the magazine, we've also got Mike Buick's Oak Road, which people might remember from the Great Electric Train Show Virtual Model Railway Exhibition. And we've also got another fabulous layout called Parkstone Goods by an owner called Colin Lockyer. And that's a brilliant little southern region goods yard scene with a little bit of a twist as well, so that's one to look out for too. Features wise, we've got loads of step-by-step guides. We've got a feature on modelling J15 060s using the Hornby model, as well as our full step-by-step guide to installing Locoman Sound's new Dolan Haas sound decoder into the BR Britannia from Hornby as well. Plus, very importantly, we have the results of the Hornby Best Locomotive of All Time vote, which has been running on keymodelworld.com. So you can find out which locomotive viewers Hornby Magazine's readers have chosen through that poll as well. And within that feature, we're also listing the top 10 items as well. So a little bit more than just that one loco in there. So, like I say, those to look forward to, all the latest model reviews, all the latest news as well, and much more besides. So loads in this latest issue. Oh, and we can't forget the free 2021 calendar as well with this issue.
Of which Mike may or may not feature as one of the months.
I definitely don't feature as any of the months. Great model railway photographs in there, even if I do say so myself because I've taken some of them, but loads of really great photographs of brilliant model railways which have featured in the magazine over the past 12 months.
So don't forget, if you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching.
So a bit of behind the scenes for you. Mike, what time is it currently?
It's currently 20 to 2 in the morning.
Why are we still at work?
Because we haven't finished yet.
So hello and welcome to this month's Hornby Magazine show. Tonight we catch up with the quarry progress here on Topley, the Hornby Magazine test track. We also catch up with Bachmann's winter announcements. We've also got plenty of stuff from Hellion, I forgot about that bit.
So loads to look forward to this month, including loads of brilliant features and quality layouts as well. Loads. And the good news is, although, oh that's wrong. I was doing so well there.
On your own?
Yeah. My hand is very red and blotchy and angry.
It's alright, it's not the first time Mike's had a rash.
Also, they've made an update on itching my nose.
An update on itching your nose?
Yeah, had an itchy nose.
Can you update us on itching your nose?
I've finished itching my nose.
So Mike, what is the current status of your itchy nose?
It's less itchy than it was a minute ago.
Thank you. Now back to the studio. I do have one quick question for you, Mike.
No.
That I'm sure no one's noticed yet. Why is there a beetle upside down on the hill?
I was wondering how long it takes to notice that.
Has that been there the whole time?
It has been there for quite a while, yeah.